Hey, folks.
Hey.
How's everybody doing? Welcome. Bryce and AJ here. Welcome to the Behind the Gate podcast. Thanks for tuning in. If you're a repeat listener returning for this episode, thank you very much for your support. If you're new, well, I don't know whether to apologize in advance or maybe at the end because we're about to just talk your ear off for no apparent reason. But we look forward to this recap because what a season it has been. What a race it was in Vegas. Man, the 250s. Oh, we'll get into it. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves right now. But thanks again for tuning in. To our supporters and anybody listening to this podcast, we have some exclusive deals for you. One of which is with our very good friends, FXR Racing, FXR Moto. FXR, some of the best motocross gear out there, some of the flashiest stuff on the track, some of the best kits that I've seen in recent years, most comfortable, great company, great supporter of AJ. For listeners of this podcast, you get 30% off of their gear. Current season, right now, gear 30% off. What is the code, AJ? You don't know.
That's a good question, Bryce.
I'm going to ask you.
Wait, I might know it now.
Okay.
I think
Give it to the nice people. I want to hear if you remember it.
Okay. FXR.
Nope.
AC. Dang it.
No.
Why is it MX? MX? What's it start with? Give me the first
A.
letter. Okay. All right. Now I got it. AC FXR MX 80.
Yes. There you go.
All
See,
right.
I knew you could remember it. Yeah. Wow. Great.
AC.
Yeah, folks.
FXR.
30% off FXR gear. AC
MX80.
FXR MX80. 80. That was AJ's old number back when he was 2 digits, back when he was good. Remember those days?
No, it was so long ago. It's can't remember.
It seems like a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
Oh, the 2 digits.
Yeah.
You're gonna be in 4 digits next season.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna be the only guy out there in 4 digits. My number's gonna be 3030.
Oh
excited.
Man, that'd be something. Yeah, love it. All right, people, look, it's riding season. We're in the peak of it now. Spring is sprung here in the Northeast, on the East Coast. Go get some new gear. Be fresh, just like AJ, just like all the guys in FXR gear. I mean, you guys line up. It's flashy stuff.
There's a whole fleet of us now too.
A whole fleet. They've done an excellent job with marketing, and I couldn't be happier for them. Stuff is really good stuff. So go pick up a new kit for the 2019 season, people. If you look good, you feel good, you ride good. I mean, it's an adage old this time. 30% off. AC, FXR, MX80. AJ, why don't you tell everybody about the collective experience and give them a little background about what they're going to be doing upcoming for the next Supercross season and some of the outdoor stuff and their support of your Hot Lap Hero race.
Yeah, guys, if you haven't heard of the collective experience, go check them out. Dave Drakes runs that program. It is pretty darn awesome. We had a full house in Vegas this weekend. I had my collective experience intern where we had interns at each one of the races, which this year was a huge help considering I didn't have a mechanic at about half of the rounds. So the intern would step up and bring me down to the line and do the bike work, and they were really thrown into the mix, which was pretty darn cool. And they had the fan experience program as well. So you can sign up, basically shadow a rider for the day. This weekend in Vegas, I had two fans. So they got to hang out all day. They actually were hanging out, went to dinner with us afterward and the whole deal. So you kind of just get thrown into the mix and see what a day in the life of a Supercross rider is like, which is pretty sweet. So the collective experience is also going to be title sponsor of Hot Lap Hero, which is an event, a new promotion I have coming up Memorial Day, which is I think May 27th. I should know that.
You got it.
May 27th, Monday, Memorial Day, Hot Lap Hero. It's an event we're having at Winchester Speed Park where everyone signs up. You get transponders, and I think you have 5 20-minute sessions throughout the day. So they're essentially structured as open practice sessions. And the whole goal of this day is to get the fastest lap time possible. So there will be payouts for top 3 in each class from the 50, 65, 85, A, B, and C classes. There's also a bounty on my head. So if you beat my best lap time of the day, you get an extra $200 bonus. So There's lots of money on the table to be won. So incentive for you guys. Collective Experience will be title sponsor of that. Dave from the Collective Experience will be there announcing the day. Should be pretty darn cool. I'm
I
trying
love
to
this
figure out.
idea, by the way,
Yeah, and
because how
try
often do
to
you sit and watch a? Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm trying to figure out like how to promote it and how to explain what it is the best I can, because I feel like it's a little bit confusing without
Well, here it is.
having
I'll give
done
it
it
to you
before.
because I love this idea. I can break it down. Here you go. How many times have anybody out there been watching qualifying on the couch or watching a race and hearing about qualifying and who's the fastest qualifier at any given race? You say, "Wow, how hard is it to ride a fast lap?" You know, it's not the
It's only
full
one
race. You
lap.
just need to put in one heater lap. Done. How hard could that be? Well, now's your chance to prove what you got. That's what it is. It's you're going for one fast lap, one heater lap. The best lap counts, and now you can put your money where your mouth is.
I think it'll be cool. It'll be a fun kind of not super what's the word I'm looking for? It's not like a race day where people show up and they're nervous and they're serious and this and that. I think it'll be a fun, light day, but at the same time, still super competitive. I mean, you're going to want to
Well,
beat
you don't
your
need to
buddy.
be in you don't need to be in crazy race shape because you could you could go
Just-
put in one lap,
right.
right? So you don't need to be a full season of training to possibly win it. Although we encourage you to take one of AJ's classes, you don't even have to be the most skilled out there. You could ride like a complete goon. You just have to be the fastest. We don't want you to do that, but you could. One fast lap.
Yeah, and throughout the day, I'll be giving instruction to try to help people improve their fast laps and to do it safely. I think that, especially for people watching, there's a misconception of the right and the wrong way to do a heater lap, like what you see in Supercross, what you see in outdoors. There's a lot that goes into it to do it correctly. In fact, it's very easy to override and try too hard on a hot lap where you're wasting energy and you're getting arm pump within that one lap, and you're actually, in fact, going slower, even though you feel like you're pushing a million times too hard. So I'll be giving little tips on how to figure that out. I think it'll be awesome. I'm going to have Winchester leave. There's a race that weekend. I'm going to have them leave it rough from the race. Of course, they'll hit it with water and fix any square edges or anything that's super dangerous. But other than that, corners are going to be left rutted and rough. So the day's going to start super rough, because otherwise, if you start with a groomed track, all the fast times will come at the beginning of the day. So I want to make it fair. So this, times could come from the first practice. They could come from the last practice once you have your lines figured out. I'm excited. I get excited just talking about it. I just hope that, people realize how cool of an event this can be and get signed up. I think we have, not many. We probably have 25, 30 signups at the moment. We'll probably cap at about 100, 120 signups total throughout all the classes. I want to try to keep it, no more than 18, 20, 22 guys per class. That way you have room to do your thing. You're not out there with 45 guys trying to find space to get your fast lap. I want you to be able to get a clear track and focus on yourself and do your own thing. Should be cool.
Love it.
But Dave at the Collective Experience is graciously coming on as our title sponsor for that, and he'll be there doing all the live announcing as well. So thank you, Dave, and should be a cool day. Pumped.
Sounds good. Well, dude, let's not wait any longer. We need to get into this because Vegas proved yet again to be probably the best the race of the season. It was the deciding factor in yet another 250 championship. And I mean, geez, man, of a season that we had in 2019 to make it all the way to Vegas and watch what happened was just the culmination of everything, right? Let's start with the 250s. I don't want to delay. We got to get into this. I got a question for you.
Yes.
Before we get into this, when the hell are you getting off of Kawasaki? Because clearly that bike is the bike that loses.
There's a curse. Yeah. Poor Mitch Payton. Oh my gosh.
Oh, geez. Can you imagine? Oh, God.
And to think like a month and a half ago, all of us would have thought that both of those 250 championships were a sealed deal. With Austin Faulkner
done deal.
East Coast, Adam Cincerella on the West, I would have said done deal, both championships over.
Absolutely. And
Couldn't believe it.
beginning of the season, we both said Eli Tomac. So
Yeah,
they
yeah,
had the opportunity, at least from a lot of people in the realm. A lot of people thought that this was going to be a Cowie sweep across the board, and damn it, they should have. We'll get into the Eli Tomac situation, but damn it, if he rode anything like he's been riding the past few weeks, it would have been wrapped up.
yep.
So it's unbelievable how it all played out. I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. So let's start at the beginning. You raced at Vegas.
Yes,
Let's
barely.
let's talk about the things that you're intimately familiar with being on that track. Let's talk about the track. Hard as a rock, looked super dry, did not look like a fun track to ride. Why don't you break it down for us?
No, that's typical Vegas. I mean, it is in a desert. So, and what was tough for me is recovering from this injury and having the nagging pain in my shoulder. It's gotten progressively worse. So I raced Denver, which was what, a month ago now? Literally right after I got hurt, I went out and raced Denver. The thing is, I was able to actually be fairly competitive there because the track was so easy that it didn't hurt my shoulder that bad. Yeah, the dirt was really hard in Denver, but the track was very easy, and I was able to hit my marks. Come 2 weeks later, New Jersey, track was soft, thankfully, but it was gnarly. Whoops were huge, so I was taking a pounding in the whoops. Rhythm sections were steep. There was rutted. My shoulder did not like any of it. And then a week later, now in Vegas, I should technically be even more healed up, but my shoulder felt even worse because the track was pretty gnarly and hard as a rock, and the whoops were huge and they were hard as a rock. So as far as like any forgiveness from the dirt to the bike and bike to the body, there really was none. So I went out for the heat race after that. I didn't bother going out for the LCQ. I was in so much pain. I just have to take a couple weeks off. But anyhow, track layout. I think for Vegas, it was, in my opinion, if I was healthy, I would have liked that track layout for what it's worth. It was a little bit slower speed than normal.
It was backwards, right? Don't they typically run that race in the opposite direction?
Yeah. So typically, from my memory, almost every year I've raced Vegas, it's gone. I know I've raced it the direction we did this year at some point. I just can't remember when. Most of the years it goes out of the stadium, takes the left-hand sweeper, and flies back in. And when you fly back in, there's been a lot of the years that I've raced, it's just a ski jump of a single, and you fly down the straightaway,
Yep.
and you're going 70 miles an hour, which I don't like. Not only does it hurt when you're getting hit by all the rocks, but not a big fan of going that fast. Anyhow, this year it was a little bit more slowed down. That rhythm section was a high-speed rhythm section, sure, but it did slow down a little bit. Outside the stadium, the roller that they had was, I thought, better than the rollers that they've had in years past. The turn actually had a nice rut in it. Outside the stadium, where usually the turn out there is kind of crappy. The sand section that they had, I thought the sand section was nicely built. The whoops were good. They were gnarly, but I thought they were good. They were difficult. That's how whoops should be. My body just couldn't handle it. But I thought it was a good racetrack, especially, they do what they can with it when it's 95 degrees out and baking in the sun all day long. It's amazing that they can keep the track as nice as they do.
Yep.
There's
Now,
only so much you can do with it.
Right. Did you have to tinker with the bike setup at all? I know we're still on a borrowed bike, so you're dealing with that variable too. But as far as suspension throughout the day, were you messing with it at all?
No, suspension this season especially, I've really tried not to touch because I felt like I've had a setting that is good. Not that I would really know because I didn't test it beforehand. It feels like that it could be good. So when it doesn't feel right, since I was so unprepared coming into the season and throughout the season, I didn't put that blame on the bike. I always tried to just push through it, and I would put the blame more on myself. And what would end up happening is halfway through the night, 3/4 of the way through the night, by the end of the night, I'm back to feeling comfortable and the setup feels right again. And you see the other guys do this a lot too, is you go chasing a setting and then you end up resorting back to your base setting anyway. Jason at SGV Suspension, he wrenched me this weekend. We were sitting on the line of the heat race and whoever had just won the heat race prior to us was doing the interview, and he goes, yeah, bike felt good. You know, I tried some stuff in time qualifying, and we ended up just going back to my base setting, and it ended up working. And Jason goes,
Yeah.
ah, big surprise there, huh? I'm like, yeah, true. So we try to leave that alone. The one thing we were trying to figure out is, for whatever reason, the clutch on this borrowed bike, it's 19 cowie, so it's got the hydraulic clutch. It was grabbing like basically at the grip. So with me pulling it in, the clutch in with one finger, it'd bottom out on my knuckles, and it'd still be a good inch away from the grip. The bike would be rolling still, so I could never actually get the clutch pulled in. So we were playing around with that, trying to get my leverage right on the clutch lever.
Oh, I mean, silly me here, but isn't there an adjustment for that? Like,
well, there's so we pulled the clutch further to the right on the handlebar, so that way my finger was grabbing the clutch further out just to give me more leverage. And then what we did too is there's a little screw type thing on the lever itself that will back it out so it's further away from the handlebar. If you know what I'm explaining here.
Yes.
But
think anybody who's ridden a motorcycle with a clutch knows what you're talking about.
Yeah, but at first I didn't think normally I wouldn't think that would fix the problem, because if it's grabbing further out, that doesn't mean it's going to disengage any closer to the grip or further away from the grip, right? That's just going to help you with leverage as far as pulling it in. It's just going to be wherever you know what I'm explaining here?
I guess I don't. I mean, you're adjusting the position that clutch is grabbing with the adjustment knob.
Yeah, and that would help in the sense that like the bike would stop rolling like with the clutch further away from the grip by making that adjustment. I don't know how to explain it. So my problem here is that I would pull the clutch in, it would bottom out my knuckle, and the clutch
bottom out your knuckle. Yep.
The clutch would never actually engage.
Yeah.
So the bike would just continue to keep rolling.
Right. So you needed to adjust that screw out and make it so that you needed less pull for it to engage. Less distance to pull to engage.
Yeah, I didn't know that's what that screw did. I thought that screw just was like preference on where you wanted that lever to be, closer to the grip or further from the grip.
This just speaks to oh my god, I really kind of want to punch you. I saw your stupid YouTube clip the other day of you having to look at a bike to remember which side the brake and the shift lever I was on, and I was like, this kid is so
oh yeah, I was in the middle of explaining that, and I was like, wait a second, which side is the
where's the brake? Dude.
Well, that's what happens.
Yes,
when you don't ride.
that is what that adjustment screw does. It adjusts like the free play and where the clutch is grabbing relative to the pull of the clutch. Yes, so it can make it closer to the handlebar. It can make it further away. But on a cable, you're actually shortening or lengthening the cable.
Wait,
which will adjust
I'm not
that
talking
position.
I think now we're talking about two different things. I'm not talking about like adjusting the play in the clutch with that screw. Like, and they have the quick ones where you can kind of just roll it forward or roll it back. Is that what you're thinking of?
Okay. Yeah.
That's only on a normal clutch. On a hydraulic clutch, you don't even have that adjustment. I'm talking about on the lever itself, there's a little, like a, I don't know how to explain it. People listening to this must be pulling their hair out with me trying to explain
Oh my god, I know, especially because I have a hydraulic clutch.
Mountain bikes have the same thing, I think. As far as just where that lever sits on your bike, you can adjust this. You could back this little thing in or out, and it'll just simply move the lever just based on preference. If you have a long finger and you need to grab that clutch way the heck out there, or if it doesn't change the play of the clutch, because the hydraulic clutch does that automatically. Just changes where that lever sits. So I adjusted it further out.
Folks listening who are ready to punch us both in the face, please DM us and call us retards. Thank you. We know it's coming. We probably are. I have no idea what we're talking about anymore. Okay,
what
so
were we talking about before?
Whoop-de-doo. I don't know. Your stupid bike and your stupid clutch and I don't know. Yeah. Who cares?
Anyways.
Okay, so your borrowed bike, you were messing with the clutch. Okay, got it. Did you ever figure it out?
No, not really. I mean, that seemed to help a little bit, but I swear when I pulled the clutch in, it was still rolling a little bit, which was frustrating. But Bike wasn't the issue. My shoulder was the issue. Moving on. Track.
It's easier to blame the bike. I think it was the bike.
Yeah. I'm just gonna put
You
blame
should
on the
have had
bike.
those. Remember that guy who had the car? Those. I think he was in New Jersey last year, and he came up to us. He had the bars, the flex. They were like carbon fiber motocross bars that had like a built-in flex. I wonder. What was the name of that company?
No idea. I don't even know if it's a thing or not. Could have been.
It was definitely a thing. He had the bars in his hand, and he was bending them on his knee. Remember? It's like they have built-in. They're safer. They're more forgiving. It made sense. They had like a built-in flex. They were like either wrapped in carbon fiber, or had some weird composite that allowed them to flex a little bit.
I don't know. Have you seen the new Specialized, like, I don't know if it's the Alez or Tarmac or what it is. It has like the suspension system in the handlebars.
No.
I saw it at a bike shop the other day, and maybe it's the Roubaix I'm talking about. I don't know. I pushed down like on it, though. It's crazy.
Really? I gotta check that out, because the Roubaix had like in the forks like that, those rubber inserts that were supposed to dampen impacts.
Yeah, this isn't in
and
the
they
forks.
Had it in the
it's
seat
literally
too, in the
it's
handlebars.
literally like in your stem, so it's not like helping the suspension of the bike, so to speak. It's just lessening the impact to your hands.
Yeah.
So
Oh, cool.
it's just if you're going riding rough roads, but I don't know. Thought it was cool. It'd be nice, especially where I ride around here, because half the ride's buttery smooth and the other half is a freaking nightmare. All right, now we're really getting off track.
Back to Supercross. Yeah.
What were we talking about? Dirt bikes,
track
Las
conditions,
Vegas,
everything's good. Yep.
Track conditions.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So the track was rough on your shoulder. Okay. Cry me a river, and let's move on. So I mean, throughout the day, I mean, who did you pick anybody out of the crowd on Saturday that you were like, this guy's riding well, this guy isn't riding well? I mean, what was your observations? Did you was anybody getting bit in the qualifiers or practices, and that you were perceiving as anybody making critical mistakes? Because there was some big mistakes that happened in the heat races, and I'm wondering if anything was foreshadowed in the qualifiers.
No, well, I was in A group this weekend, so I was out there with the fast guys, so I wasn't really able to watch and see what the deal was with them. But Tomac's always really fast there, so I just assumed that Tomac was going fast. There was a couple things that I heard people were jumping in the rhythm sections, which again, like even in that long rhythm, where they were going double, triple, table over single, and then quadding, it really wasn't much faster than just doubling all the way through, which is what most people were doing anyhow. So there wasn't really.
It looks better though.
Yeah. The biggest separator just became the whoops, especially in the 250 class. So the guys that couldn't hit the whoops, that was really starting to become an issue. And you saw even guys that could hit the whoops, like in Oldenburg, who is typically really good in the whoops, he just had two kind of brain farts come in than those last three, and had literally the same exact crash twice. It just didn't take much. And those things are scary. Like whoops that are hard as a rock. I mean, those whoops were cement. And that scares me. I don't know. I just don't want to crash in whoops that are cement. I would take whoops that are in New Jersey, even though those were super gnarly and rutted and square edged. At least they're soft. So if you crash, which I did, you can kind of get away with it. Crashing in these whoops did not look fun.
No, not at all. But as far as whoops go, you weren't seeing as many mistakes in these whoops. Although the 250s, a lot of them, especially in the mains, were Ferrandis were jumping them. Most of the guys seem to be
more forgiving in the sense that the first set was a little more forgiving in the sense that they're short. So if you make a mistake, you're pretty much out of them by the time you're about to crash. Although the last whoop was the biggest in the set, and that's why you saw so many people kind of get caught. And the third to last one and the last one were the biggest. So that's why you kind of saw people. I just watched the 450 heat race with Tomac, and Tomac almost killed himself in the whoops.
Yep. Well, there was that one lap, but he came in right before the turn, right?
Yeah. So he hit the third to last one, and it kicked him, and then he hit the last one, and it kicked him. The only reason those were forgiving is, again, they're short. By the time you make the mistake, you're out of them and you can usually save it. And then the other set, the long set, although they were very difficult to hit fast, they were forgiving in the sense that you could pretty easily get in between them and start jumping if you made a mistake. Where a lot of whoops in Supercross, you can't get in between them because they're too pointy. They're like too pointy in the transition, and you almost like get stuck. These were actually a little bit rolled in transition, so it was much easier to get in them and just start doubling or tripling.
Right. Okay.
Which you saw a lot of people doing. I mean, and for me, like, I didn't know what to do because skimming hurt like crazy and doubling hurts like crazy because it still yanks your shoulder out. So that's why I ended up just calling it, because the rest of the track was fine on my shoulder. It was just, believe it or not, the landing of the finish line and the whoops. And the landing of the finish line was really hard on my shoulder because I don't know if you could see it from TV. It is straight up and down.
Yeah.
Could you notice that?
Yes, you could. And I could imagine. It seemed like there was a very little margin of error for that thing.
Yeah, because the takeoff was not steep and the landing was a total vertical wall. So what would happen a ton of times is you would take off, kind of blow through the takeoff. Next thing you know, you're clipping the landing and it's bouncing you all the way to the first whoop. So needless to say, that wasn't fun for my shoulder. And then you would watch the shorter guys. Like I saw Alex Martin and Jimmy Dakota's clip the top of it a couple times, and I thought they were going to kill themselves because they don't have the legs to absorb it.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like, why don't they just trim the top off a little bit or make it a little bit more of a? I mean, that could be a really fun.
I've always wondered that.
It'd be more fun for the fans to watch too, because we wouldn't be so worried about timing the damn thing. We could just actually jump it and do a scrub or a whip.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always wondered that because it does seem super. Not only is it super steep, but that the edge is so sharp.
Mm-hmm. And they always do that in Vegas. I don't know why.
Maybe they do that to make it more difficult, right? I mean, I guess it speaks to skill and ability to time it, or do you think it just makes it like unnecessarily dangerous?
I think it makes it unnecessarily dangerous, and I don't think that the rest of the track is difficult enough. Like, why give us? I don't know. And it's not mostly Feld or the track crew are worried about creating obstacles that are fun for the fans to watch. Making something abnormally steep and technical for us to land on is getting no appreciation from the crowd because they don't even understand why that's difficult, or they don't understand, what's going on with that. It's just a pain in the ass for us. Where I think it's more fun there was a couple finish lines this season where it's just like a floater with a big old landing and you could, scrub and whip it and just kind of get loose on the bike. That's going to be more fun for a fan to watch.
Yeah, I agree. In talking about track conditions and bike setups and the stuff we've already kind of gone over a little bit, I can't overlook the fact that Eli's bike, which we've criticized the way his bike looks like it's handling several times on the show. It seemed like this week in particular, everything looked like it was working exactly the way it should have been. There was a couple times, when you mentioned that one time in the whoops, you mentioned that one. Actually, we didn't cover it yet, but we'll talk about it now. The little snafu he had in the heat race. But other than that, especially coming back into the track, that rhythm section, after you've left the track and you're on your way back in,
unreal.
There was that the way Eli was approaching that was a lot like we talked about Muskin hitting similar rhythm sections throughout the season, slamming into the face of a takeoff. The bike just looks like it's designed to do exactly that. It is somehow transitioning perfectly, even though it looks like he should be slamming the hell out of that bike in his body. It just looked like it worked. So I think this race in particular, and maybe that's a function of why he did so well, but the bike just looked good.
I wish I knew what specifically it was with the setup that would allow you to do that, because that's always been the one thing that I've never been able to feel confident with on a motorcycle. Is we're coming into that from especially Tomac's probably coming in 15 miles an hour faster than I am. And that rhythm section, TV doesn't do justice of how steep it actually is. And he's just not timing it at all, just slamming into it. And the bike is pushing through perfectly. Where most normal
I know that's
setups
something.
would not allow for you to do that. So I think it's a product of the bike being, you would think really stiff, but you
But
wonder.
also supple, because I mean, it just and maybe the general population wouldn't even appreciate what we're talking about. But the way he slams into the face, and it doesn't G out, it perfectly rebounds, and just it doesn't kick him weird. It just takes it and uses that impact to just perfectly launch him over that rhythm. It's crazy to watch because
Mhm.
he's one of the few guys who's doing it, and he's doing it at such speed, and it looks like it's supposed to happen. He's like,
It's
no
even
transition,
crazier to
just
watch when
slam it.
you know what it feels like. It's crazier for me to watch that because I hit the section 50 times and knew what it felt like to actually hit it and how steep it actually felt and like how abrupt it felt when you were hitting the faces of that stuff. Which is why I was opting to come out of that section and go step on, step off, as to avoid going single over table and slamming that pocket to go triple. I was opting to just avoid that altogether. Yeah, so it's amazing. I mean, and I spoke about the KTM's looking really good doing that all season. You always see the top guys when things are working right, they're able to push through those sections, and the bikes are able to push through those sections as if those square edges and those lack of transitions aren't even there. Tomac's bike looked really good in
Yep.
the whoops, even like when I said when he messed up and kind of dropped the front and then got a little squirrely, the bike didn't really do anything too crazy. His foot even slipped off for a
Yep.
second, got it back on. It was fine.
That looked more like rider error than the bike
Yeah,
kicking him weird.
yep.
You know, where in the past he's had sometimes this season where it really looked like his bike just was not tracking well despite what he was doing on it. It just, the bike was kicking weird or whatever. I didn't think that was the case.
No, and there's a couple of things too, like after the Supercross triple where you take that 90-degree left and hit that single and kind of jump it a little bit out. There was acceleration bumps going down that straightaway from when everyone would kind of land in the same spot and accelerate. I was landing
Mhm.
in those bumps every single time. Tomac was just jumping and launching past them, and when he jumping that far out on that roller, the bike looked amazing. Where, and I hate to say it, I mean, because my bike is great too. But this was probably one of the best suspension setups I've ever had on one of my Supercross bikes. But there's got to be something that they have that we don't. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Let's go back to 250s. I don't even know where to start. I'm flustered just thinking about it. Man, I don't even know, dude. I don't even know where to start. Adam Cincerillo had the championship pretty much in the bag for the good part of the season. We all thought it was going to happen, and then the pressure's on. He makes the biggest mistake of his career. What do you think happened in that moment? Because I would argue that yeah, he it was rider error, but just the chances of him going off to the left side of the track and get stuck on a rut that's on the downside of a jump. I mean, how often does that even happen? Was it bad luck? Was it him cracking under pressure? I don't want to make that judgment. Actually, I want to hear what you have to say before I kind of give you my opinion on it. But what do you think?
It's tough because typically I would say it was a total brain fart and he kind of folded under pressure. But the way that crash happened, it so riding that track all day, there was when you come out of the turn, you go roll, do the little step down. It was a double, but it was pretty much like a step down. And when you would land that, there was this crazy hole on the landing of it. And if you didn't jump past that hole, if you didn't kind of like really focus and soak that hole up, it would just, especially a Supercross suspension because it is so rigid, it would give your bike a funny kick on the landing of that. There's a couple times it grabbed me a little bit funny. So I was watching Santarello when it happened. I watched him kind of pass the mechanics area, take the left. He hit the Supercross triple. This was the one thing that kind of confused me. He hit the Supercross triple, and if you watch his GoPro footage, he looks back. And right away, I was like, "Oh, wait a second. Why is he looking back?" A guy like me, sure, maybe I would do it. It's a bad habit. But why would Santarello be in third place and look back? There's no reason for him to be looking behind him. He had to know Ferrandis was in front of him. Why are you looking back? So right when he did that, I'm like, "Oh, wait a second. Maybe he's getting nervous. Maybe he's just trying to figure out where the guys are behind him and he can stay." And as soon as I had that thought come out of my head, boom, he's on the ground. But what it looked like to me is he landed that little step down. His back tire landed directly in the hole. He was standing really vertical, and he was actually over the front of the bike, which is the position you'd want to be in when you land, and you're kind of relaxed with your weight forward. He was riding loose, obviously, at that time, because the way it grabbed him and kind of whipped his back end to the side and then just threw him way off track, just told me that I think what happened is he just was taking a deep breath in that section. Typically, if you don't hit that hole, was pretty basic. It was just a double and then a table over single. A B rider could do that. And I think he wasn't holding on for a second, and the thing just whipped him. And next thing you know, it's Supercross. It doesn't take but a split second to put you on the ground. I don't know. It's not like it was a stupid turn crash where you'd be like, "Oh man, he cracked. Like, why? How did he do that?" But this was kind of like a bizarre little. It was kind of bizarre.
That's kind of what I'm saying. Like, it wasn't it didn't seem like a mental lapse where he just pushed the front end in a corner, exactly like you just said. Like that, that to me speaks more of he had a momentary lapse in focus or whatever. But it just seemed super unlucky. And that, how many times have we seen guys crash this season outside of yourself who've destroyed their bikes to the point where they can't ride the rest of the race? I mean, yeah, it was a hard crash. I get it. And there was some guys that took their bodies out of the race before their bikes cracked. But I mean, just the way that went down, the crash, then the handlebars bent. He couldn't ride it. What an unlucky son of a bee. I can't even imagine being in that
for him.
Everyone, especially
everyone in the crowd had their hands on their head, just devastated. I mean,
such a nice kid. Obviously he's this season in particular, it seemed like he worked on a lot of his critical flaws, and he had some mistakes, and he's still developing as a rider, but just to see that happen, you gotta feel for the whole Kawasaki camp, because let me tell you, let me get real with you real quick, and trust me when I tell you, I'm very alert and aware that you are on a Kawasaki, but you wonder why these teams, these programs push this sport so hard from the factory side, is because when their bikes do well, you win championships, it directly translates into sales or not. I mean, think about it. How many bikes do you think KTM is going to sell now? The KTM / Husqvarna, which, I mean, they're the same machine. Let's be real. They've won every Supercross title. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, that to me shows dominance on that bike. And you take into equation that Cooper Webb last year on a Yamaha did absolutely nothing, and the season before that did absolutely nothing. Gets on a new bike, and all of a sudden he's Supercross 450 champion. That speaks to people. That speaks to people who are looking for a bike that is going to be fast on a track at whatever level. And to see Kawasaki put the amount of money, time, effort, everything into every part of that program. Did you see the feature that they did on their rig?
Yeah.
Just the amount of resources that they put into that program and team to watch their three biggest stars, the ones that anybody could have predicted would win each respective championship, just blow it. There's no other way to put it. They just blew it.
Did you see the 450
kills Kawasaki
press conference?
I would never buy a Kawasaki. I did. I did. Where Cooper Webb is like, "Yep, he
choked,
cracked. I didn't."
Oh,
Yeah,
oh man,
yeah.
he's such a dick,
I was,
but
I
he's a
was gonna
beast.
get. See, I was gonna go. I was gonna go there. We got it. We got to get there though, because I don't want to not talk about that because I've felt the way about Cooper Webb, as you know, even last year, the year before. So now, I mean, I'm a KTM guy. He just won the championship. He's clearly fast. We got to get there. I want to backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
Um,
Let's see. What else 250? Well, Chase Sexton won a championship, and no one seemed to care because there was so much other drama going on.
Okay, that's perfect. That's where I want to go next. So I'm going to speak
Not
directly
a
to the
single
keyboard
person in that
warriors out there.
stadium was watching Chase Sexton, which is
No,
felt bad for him.
No, and so this is a perfect topic that we could bring up right now. Is immediately after that race, and I mean even to this day right now, social media, the keyboard warriors, they're on his ass. Oh, how does it feel to win a championship being the slowest or the second fastest guy, or that asterisk that we talked about last week? Do we look at this in any and hold any less weight to it because the circumstances that happened with Faulkner? It's funny to me that the guys or girls on social media will call out Chase Sexton and say, "Oh yeah, enjoy that. You only won it because the fastest guy." One comment in particular got me. It was like, I think it said, "Oh, we're just giving championships to the second fastest guys now?" Question mark. That's what he said. And of course, then there was like a whole comment storm about this idiot, that idiot, you're an idiot, no, you're an idiot. But you can't help but think to yourself, there's slightly a little bit of truth to it. Not to say that championships are won with consistency. Everybody who's involved in the sport and has seen previous championships, that's like the golden rule. You cannot win a championship unless you're at every race and you show up and you don't give up and all that good stuff. But, and as I said last week, do you look at this championship with Chase Sexton with a little asterisk next to it?
I think if you were at the races and got to watch everything kind of play down live, you would have a slightly different view on it. Because Faulkner's dominance wasn't quite as dominant as it came off as being. Like, Sexton was faster on multiple occasions in time qualifying, where Faulkner was putting in desperate hot laps to try to get to the top of the board, and Sexton still was faster. So, I mean, in my opinion, yeah, Sexton, it took him a little bit to get rolling at the beginning of the season in main events. But as far as speed goes, and then he started to figure out his main events later in the season, I mean, obviously he earned it, but it's fair game. I mean, he put the pressure on. The reason why Faulkner got hurt in the first place is because he was pushing hard to put in a fast lap because Sexton was at the top of the board. So Sexton applied the pressure. Faulkner rode over his head in a whoop section to try to beat Sexton on a fast lap. Sexton, if you want to look at it that way, Sexton is the one who caused the injury because he was riding fast.
Yep.
If he was if Faulkner was 2 seconds faster than everybody or completely dominating the time qualifying session, he wouldn't have ridden that hard in the whoops and would have never got hurt. That's so I want to look at it that way, right?
I completely agree with you in every way. And I want to circle back on something we talked about last week. And for those of you who didn't listen last week, we did talk about this. How many times did Chase Sexton crash in practice in a heat race? Or practice and qualifier, rather. Austin Faulkner crashed damn near every one of them. Mm-hmm. And some pretty nearly
big crashes
race costing crashes, right? There was some pretty hairy ones where if it went just a little one way or another, he probably wouldn't have raced that night or could have gotten injured. So he was riding at that kind of the level where it might have been a little reckless, a little dangerous, a little unsafe. Certainly not with the preservation of a season in mind, right? And Chase Sexton, he just did not do that. He was on it the whole season. And that's what wins you championships. So to the people who are out there like, oh, you're going to give it to the second fastest guy? Like, fuck off. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, right.
It's
I mean,
how
if that
you...
was your argument, you could use that same argument for Ferrandis beating Cianciarulo in the championship. You could use that same argument for Cooper Webb beating Tomac in the championship. Clearly, the fastest people, and I'm putting this in like air quotes, all three of the fastest people didn't win the championship. That's why we race a championship, and not just
and it just speaks to
race.
Showing up every weekend and racing in the present. You know, how often we've talked about that. Don't race into the future. Don't race in the past. We got to race in the present right now. And I think, Jay at Rack Racing just did a little piece on this past week about what we can learn from this season, what we can learn from the guys who made the biggest mistakes. And there's takeaways for everyone from all three of those things, whether it be, and even the guys who did end up winning, it's believing in yourself. It's never giving up. You have to show up every race, and you can't dwell on, oh, well, I'm down in the championship points. I'll never make it up, because you never know what's going to happen. You have to show up every single weekend. And when you do, the results clearly speak for themselves. Nobody had Dylan Ferrandis winning the championship. Nobody had Chase Sexton winning the championship. And here they are with number one plates, East and West Coast, 250 champions, and the other guys go home empty-handed. It's as simple as that.
Crazy. So crazy. The whole last lap I was watching Ferrandis' girlfriend there just to see her reaction. And like she was around like Villemin and all of Ferrandis' like entourage. It was almost just like disbelief. And then when he crossed the finish line to see his emotions, like, man,
yeah.
As bad as I felt for Cianciarulo, that was really, really, really cool to see.
Yeah, it was really cool to watch Ferrandis come over that finish line, and he probably thought that it was. I actually wonder where he thought Cianciarulo was, because he didn't lap him, but I'm sure he's getting messages on the pit board. He probably didn't see him over the shoulder, but how cognizant do you think he was of where he was in the championship coming around those last few laps?
I think in the post-race press conference, he said he had a conversation with his mechanic before the race and said that he just wants his position and Cianciarulo's position. He said, I don't want lap times. I don't want a time gap, anything. I just want to know where I am and where Cianciarulo is. So
he's probably seeing 1 and 21.
Yeah, he had a P1, and then he had like a P3. And then he said next lap it said P10. And then he said the very next lap it said P20. He's like, I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Crazy.
I mean, could that to be like a dream? Could you imagine coming around and seeing that, read P20? And then
I would have thought it was a mistake.
Then you got to ride. What do you have left at that point? Let's just say 5 more minutes. Like 5 minutes could feel like an eternity.
I could imagine.
Gosh, yep. I know what it feels like to ride 5 minutes when you're winning an LCQ. Never mind just trying to wrap up a championship. Like that's crazy. Did you in the post-race press conference too? He goes, I was gonna do a burnout like all the champions always do burnouts, but when he revved his bike after the finish line, he blew his bike up. Did you hear him say that?
Really?
Yeah.
No.
He goes, I went over to try to grab my bike to do a burnout, but my mechanic told me that I blew my bike up when I revved it after the race.
What?
Yeah, pretty funny. He didn't even rev it for that long. It's kind of scary.
I know. Yeah, I was trying to think back if he just sat there pinning it.
For a little bit, but not like for long enough. You would think
nothing
blow
too
it
crazy.
Up. Yeah.
Doesn't that make you think like, man, cool dude, is that thing on the verge of failure?
I know.
At any point during that race? But
could you have imagined? I mean, oh my God, just the sport though, anything can happen. Like, what if Cianciarulo had crashed and then 2 laps later, Ferrandis' bike blew up? Like
exactly. Yeah, no.
I would have pooped my pants. Yep. That would have been. I mean, who would have won the championship at that point? Cianciarulo still?
Well, let's not speculate too much, because I think it was exciting enough. Chase Sexton though, he didn't almost seem like as excited as I thought he would have.
No,
You
I
know what I
know.
mean?
Kind of weird.
Did you get that vibe too? And did you happen
Yeah.
to see him almost take out the baby when he was riding through the
No.
after? Oh my God, go watch! I was like,
What do you mean?
he literally almost took out a baby, like a little baby. So when he was riding over to his mechanics, or right after the race, there was a woman standing there with a baby in her arms, and he just like beelined. I swear that his shoulder clipped the baby's head. I was like,
Oh
my
my
God.
God. When he was riding the
Just
bike, or was he walking?
yeah, when he was riding the bike. Yeah.
What was a baby doing down there?
Like a mom was holding him. I don't even know. I don't know who it was. Somebody probably knows who it was. Somebody's wife, somebody's mom, somebody's, I don't know. But yeah, she was holding a little baby, and he rides on over immediately after the race. He rides over, and I don't think he saw her holding a baby and almost killed the baby. Imagine that. Chase Sexton, 250 champion, baby killer.
Manslaughter.
Baby murder. Oh God.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, it did seem a little like maybe it didn't hit him yet, or maybe he is that confident in his abilities where he's just like, oh yeah, it's first of many. I don't know though. I feel like he'd have to be pretty darn excited.
Second year in Supercross, rookie of the year last year, champion this year. I'll tell you what, the Geico Honda 250s, they all looked pretty good. And I think was it Ricky and Ralph all mentioned it.
McAdoo looked really
Hampshire's
good.
up there.
Hampshire was riding well. Yeah.
Yeah.
All of them.
So good things on the docket for them.
Hey, you know what's crazy though?
Yeah.
Is Sexton winning this championship? He only has 1 year to defend his championship, and then he has to go up to a 450. So he's going to be 21 years old, bumping up to the 450 class full time. That's pretty darn young.
Well, Dungey did that. Dungey was super young when he was on.
Was he?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember specific. Somebody Google it for us and then DM us. Thank you. Where was I?
What else do we have? I don't have any notes, by the way. So I got.
Oh, I think people could have told us that already. We're so scatterbrained. Who knows? We just wing it. We throw everything at the wall. Just go off the cuff. Who needs structure?
Trying to think what else.
Oldenburg.
Oh yeah. Oh, Oldenburg. Does anyone have confirmation if he was knocked out?
So you mentioned he was knocked out. I don't know if he was unconscious under that bike in the LCQ, or if he was just so defeated that he crashed exactly the same way, that he just sat there like, fuck this, just laid down for a little dirt nap.
I would say that was a possibility, but the fact that he was stuck under the bike, I don't think he would just chill under the bike.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not.
Both of those were pretty hard crashes, though. Poor guy. And he was riding really, really well at the beginning of the day. Oldenburg's been riding really well all season, honestly.
Yeah, he has. But I want to bring this up again because we've talked about it a few times. Happened again with him. Ricky and Ralph jinxed him because directly before that whoop section, they were saying how well he was riding. He was doing everything he needed to do, blah, blah, blah. And immediately after they shut their mouths, he crashed.
Oh, and then when he does crash, and when he did crash and he's laying, looking like he's unconscious under the bike, not moving, Ralph goes, well, I don't know if he's going to be able to make the main now. And I'm like, yeah, no shit,
he went
Ralph.
from first place to now he probably won't make the main. Yeah, I remember him saying that, and I was like, yeah, no shit, he's not going to make the main.
Yeah, you think?
He went for, like, what? Yeah, that was funny. That was funny.
What else? So Adam Enticknap wrapped up the Pulp MX points. I think he won
congratulations,
24 grand for that. Casey Brennan actually got second. Casey Brennan had a solid season as far as being consistent in the LCQs.
So you want to? I know you've mentioned it a few times on the show, but I don't know if everybody even knows what you're talking about with the Pulp MX. What Adam just won. Why don't you just explain that to people?
Yeah, so Steve Mathis over at Pulp MX, they do a podcast as well. I think they're the largest motocross podcast out there. But they
have facts. If you guys want facts,
they have a lot of facts. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want facts, go to Pulp MX. If you want zero facts, lots of speculation, stay right here.
And a bunch of babbling. Yeah, exactly. Stay right here.
Um, they raffled off a Yamaha 450. You could buy a raffle ticket for $20. And what they did with the money is they created a point system for 5th place and back in the LCQ. So pretty much the first position to not make the 450 main event and back were awarded a point system for 26 points for 5th in the LCQ and so on. And from Anaheim 1 all the way to the end of the season. So they kept track of the points. First place was going to get 80% of that money. Second place, 15% of the money. Third place, 5% of the money. And fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, I was, in the top 3 of that the whole time up until I crashed in Houston, and I ended up missing the Houston race, and I missed the weekend after. So that killed me in the points, or else honestly, I probably, especially with entering that, making a couple mains there at the end of the season, I probably could have won it or been second, which would have been cool. But I think Entignap did win it. I think he got maybe 20. I think the pot in total was 28,700. So whatever 80% of that is. So you got over $20,000 for first. Second place, the 15%, I think was 5, 6, or maybe $7 grand, which is pretty good for Brennan. And then I ended up somehow still, after missing all those races, I somehow still got third. And I didn't even go out for the LCQ in Vegas. So technically I missed 3 races, still got third. 5% of that for me, I think it calculated to be like $1,600. So
better than nothing.
No, pretty cool, honestly.
That's like making a main.
To get a check at the end of the week or end of the season for $1,600 for
for
pretty much
being
having
shitty.
for being really bad. It's pretty good. So thanks Steve for putting that on, but that was exciting.
Hey, you know what? That actually brings up a topic that I was thinking about as it was happening. Ricky Carmichael, I think more so than anybody else that I can remember, was pretty open in divulging some bonus payouts for like Cooper Webb and the guys that were going to be winning titles that evening. I don't remember anybody ever saying in the past like what the bonuses actually could amount for.
Oh, really? What did he say?
I think he specifically said that there was going to be like over $1 million in bonuses for Cooper Webb for winning the championship. Between Thor and the gear, all of his gear companies and KTM and all that stuff.
Well, it's $1 million.
He got pretty specific, obviously.
And then it's going to be everything else on top of that. So yeah, it's well over $1 million.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cooper Webb.
And what about the 250s?
Made a lot of money this year. At 250, I think it's 500. Every team I think is a little different, although they are pretty much, I think, close to all being on the same page. I asked when I have the guys do the classes. We always get into these conversations, which it's a little nosy of me, but I'm always just really curious. I'm pretty sure for like a main event win, 250 guys can make anywhere between, I could be off on this. I think 25 to 75 grand. No, 25 to 50 grand for a race win for 250. For 450, you're looking at.
And that's AMA purse plus bonuses.
No, just bonus from your team. So
okay.
this isn't your gear company. This isn't AMA purse. That's why these guys make so much money. It's pretty bizarre. And then 450 guys. So let's just say Cooper Webb, Factory Red Bull KTM. He wins a main event. It's probably 100 grand. I know in the past there's been guys, and they get paid. They get top 3 bonuses. There's been guys in the past who, like Brian Villapoto, who I heard rumor that he only got bonuses for a win or for first and second. So his bonuses were a bit higher. I think he made closer to 200 grand per win. Again, this is all, take it with a grain of salt. I'm pretty sure I'm fairly accurate on this. And then championship, most 450 guys are making $1 million. 250 guys are making 500,000. And I want to say what's crazy too is these bonuses are both for Supercross and outdoors. You would think it would be less in outdoors, but I'm pretty sure it's same bonus structure for outdoors.
I think I would imagine that the margin on outdoors is way higher than than Supercross. Like, there's probably more revenue for Supercross because everybody comes into the stadiums. They're selling a lot of tickets. It's on TV and in prime time. So, like, yeah, I could see that people would think that, yeah, of course there's more money in Supercross. But outdoors, you're not trucking dirt all over the place every week. You're not paying the track builders every week. Like, there's a ridiculous amount of overhead in Supercross. I can't even fathom how much that show costs to produce. All of the equipment going all over the country.
Yeah, that's true.
To physically build the tracks, like the structures involved, the expense that it is to get a Supercross track built inside of a stadium, like that has got to be an unfreaking believable number. Plus, you have all the TV overhead and the media overhead. Like it's gotta be expensive. I would love to know how much a race costs to produce, and what the actual margin is on it.
Those costs don't have anything to do with the teams paying money to the riders. But I wonder what the Feld payout is as opposed to the MX Sports payout for outdoors. I think it's quite a bit better. I don't know. I haven't done outdoors in so long. Yeah, it's definitely better because I'm pretty sure I did Southwick 2 years ago just for fun. I think I got like 29th overall. I'm pretty sure I only got a check for like less than $400 for a top 30 overall. Where if you think about it, you just make a night show in the 450 class in Supercross and you get at least $1,000.
Yeah.
So
well, I think it has to do with like the TV revenue is better, because it's airing in prime time. Everything has got to be a higher revenue for Supercross. I would imagine the expense is a lot higher too. Who knows?
Google it.
Somebody out there does.
But hey, before I forget, this is not a good segue into this, but I got one specific.
None of our
question.
segues are good.
No,
doesn't matter.
I got one question this week that really popped out. Something that I wanted to cover. Can I answer it?
Well, let's talk about Cooper Webb and then we'll get into it because I want to talk about. Let's wrap up the Supercross discussion with Cooper Webb.
Oh yeah.
And Eli Tomac.
Sure.
They played oh, dude. Honestly, I don't know. He just gives off the most like arrogant douche vibe, and I don't know him at all. He could be exactly the opposite. That could be his on-track persona, and it works good. He probably gets everybody mentally thrown off. Like if I were sitting next to him as Eli Tomac, it would take so much not to just punch him in the face. But maybe that's part of his tactic. Maybe that's part of his thing. He's like get in everybody's head, just be a dick, and he's not secretive about being a dick. Like that's the thing. It's like he said it in the press conference. Adam cracked, I didn't. Like, and it was just like the most like arrogant, cocky thing to say. But one, he earned it, and it was not true. And maybe that's just his thing. Maybe he gets in everybody's head like that. Part of his tactic for the season. I don't know, but it makes it hard to root for him. That's for sure. Sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, as a racer, I don't judge people too harshly on that because I respect them so much as just racers.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, this is all definitely hypothetical character.
I mean, yeah. I've known Cooper forever. I've known most of these guys since I was 4 or 5 years old. Yeah, but then it works, and this is his job. And the only time I see him now is on race day. So,
yep.
I don't know that I knew the type of person he was prior, outside of race day when we were little, but I don't anymore. So maybe he's fine, and then on race day he's a different person.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he clearly, based on like all the spots he's done on TV and the interviews, like he's a family guy, he's a religious guy. Like he probably has a heart of gold, and we're just being the assholes being critical of him. But I think you hit the nail on the head. This is his job. I think of anybody out there, he demonstrated this year in particular clearly that he's there to do a job. He's not there to make friends with everybody on the track. He's not even there to make friends with his teammate, because obviously we saw what happened to him and Marvin. Like he made a statement. He was there to do one thing, and that was win a championship. He didn't have to be nice. He didn't have to play by anybody's rules except for his own, and it paid off.
And he was just a mental beast this whole year. I even look at the heat race in Vegas. You know, Tomac was hands down way faster than him, but you could tell Webb still wanted to win that heat race. Webb didn't have to win that heat race. All he had to do is get top 9.
Yep.
And he didn't want Tomac to get by. When Tomac got by, you could see Webb pushing hard on that last lap just to try to make a push for Tomac. And when they crossed the finish line, Webb was pissed off. So that
sure
says a lot. I mean, he didn't go into conservative mode. Even in the main event, he rode a very solid race. Got what, third?
Third. Mm-hmm.
When
Agreed.
all he had to do is get like 20th or better. To go out and not ride super overly conservative, and to go out and still push, be aggressive, and get a podium, that's impressive.
Agreed. And Eli Tomac, man, when he is on it, like he has been the past few rounds, it's like watching a video game. Am I right? Like he just looks like that bike weighs absolutely nothing. He's throwing it around. He tosses it into turns like it's on hover pads. It's ridiculous. Where was that at the beginning of the season? How does he channel that? I think one of the takeaways for this season from all these guys that I would observe is two things. One of which is if I'm anybody else, especially somebody else on a factory team, I'm saying to myself, if Cooper Webb could do it, why the hell can't I do it? So I feel like that is going to light a spark for people next year. It's like, man, Cooper Webb is where, I don't know, pick somebody. Cole Seeley is this year. What is it? What can they do to elevate their game to be a champion next year? So I think it might light a fire for people who thought they were down and out. Maybe they've settled into just recognizing that they're an 8th and 9th, a 10th place guy. And maybe that's where they thought they were that's where they thought they were. And with Cooper Webb going from somebody like that who was down and out, who seemed to be settling into kind of like that middle of the pack, to come back and win the championship the next year, I think that might bode well for other people's psyches and realizing, hey, look, if he can do it, I can do it.
It could. I think the outdoors will play a big factor too, as far as if anyone can gain momentum or if somebody loses momentum in outdoors. You know, if the season ended this year and there was no such thing as outdoors, and we had already were able to start talking next year's Supercross, of course, a lot of people are going to pick Webb again. But depending on how outdoors goes, if Tomac goes out and dominates and Webb ends up being a 4th or 5th place guy in outdoors, we could be having a different conversation going into Supercross next year.
Mm-hmm.
But as we sit here right now, I know this is real early to talk. Who would be your pick for 2020 Supercross champion right now?
I mean,
the reason
has
I
to be
ask
Tomac.
is because I know the reason I asked is because I laugh, but I would again, my bet would be on Tomac, just like it was at the beginning of this season and all season this. Yeah.
It just has to be. He is without a doubt the fastest guy to ride a dirt bike on that track. I mean, and it's like, it's not even close. What did he win that main event the other night by? 15 seconds? Something pretty ridiculous. Like that Villa, yeah, he was way out there. You know, and we haven't seen, I mean, we've seen Tomac do that a handful of times, but it wasn't since Villapoto used to gap the hell out of people and win by crazy margins that the last time we saw a championship won by such a crazy dominance. Tomac has that ability. If he irons out whatever he needs to iron out, and look, he came into the season, he might have been injured. He acknowledged that he had something going on. To the extent that affected him, we might not have ever know, because it seemed like he had high points and low points throughout the season. Obviously ended on a bunch of really high notes, but if he can, and I feel like we've been saying this every season, but if he can just mentally be there like he's been there the last few weeks, and beat Eli Tomac for the season, honestly, I feel like he has the chance to go undefeated, and I'm not even joking.
Yeah, I agree with that. The problem is that's a hard thing to fix.
Yeah,
He showed signs of
it'll
being
be
extremely human this year, and the guys that have had seasons
well.
didn't
How
seem
about
like they were
that
human.
heat race almost crash? I mean, I don't even know what that was. And he was
that was crazy. The fact that he didn't crash.
The fact that he did not crash, crazy.
I think what he did is
crazy.
He cased it first of all, but he landed really far left, and I don't think anyone had used that line, and it was just greasy and wet. So when he cased it, the way that the suspension was like unloaded, there wasn't much weight on the tires. It just like whipped him sideways. But
no, that was the same section that bit Cianciarulo, wasn't it?
No,
that same rhythm.
Right.
No?
It was the shorter rhythm right before that.
Oh, okay.
But speaking of that rhythm section, I don't know if they showed it on TV because I didn't watch the 250 race on TV. Did they show that tough block in the center of the track that Cianciarulo nearly missed and then Chris Bloss ended up landing on and crashing? Or did they not show any of that on TV?
Off the top of my head, they might have. Maybe I wasn't paying attention.
Maybe they didn't, though, because it was kind of like I could have been something.
When was it? During the main?
It was probably about halfway through the main event. One of the leader, it must have been one of the leaders, unless somebody was a lap down, crashed in that rhythm section, and or either hit a tough block flew into basically the center of the track, and it was sitting there. No one was waving yellow flag. No one was waving anything. And I'm like, first of all, that should never happen in Supercross. If a tough block is down in a sketchy part of the track, a yellow flag shouldn't be waved. A red cross should be waved. Because again, I've said this before, if a yellow flag is being waved to us in Supercross, that really means nothing. That means a guy's down, but he's not down in a dangerous spot. Keep doing what you're doing. If that tough block is down in a really sketchy spot, there should be a red cross flag and you should have to roll through that section. But there was nothing. So I'm watching this tough block, and sure enough, Cianciarulo jumps up on. So there was like the double. You come out of the turn, you go roll, double, double, double on to like it was an on-off, but the on-off had a dip in it. So it was basically like a step on, step up, and then a step down. He jumps up to the step up, and the tough block's up there. He like wheelies and skims it to the side, and it was unbelievable the way he missed this tough block. 2 or 3 other people nearly miss it, and then sure enough, Chris Bloss jumps up, lands right on the thing, goes right over the bars, and gets hurt.
Yeah, that should not happen. That shouldn't happen.
It absolutely should not happen. I mean, there's people watching the track. There's spotters that are on a radio headset that are somewhere up there that are making the call down to the flaggers. That call, as soon as that tough block was in that track, should have been, all right, get that red cross flag out. We got to get this thing. We got to get that tough block pulled out of the track.
Definitely.
That was crazy. That right there could have taken Cianciarulo out. Could have taken any of those guys out. It was unbelievable that he didn't hit it.
And if it happened to Cooper Webb, he just would have hit it and went right over like it didn't affect him.
the tough block would have just puffed into dust. A cloud of dust.
Evaporated into nothing.
What else you got? I got this question sitting here. I don't want to forget about it.
Yeah. Let's get to that. Because obviously, you're now that the Supercross season's ending, you're going to be in full swing with camps, and your focus on rider development, which I think, and you mentioned it last week. You're getting a lot of respect and notoriety from people that are at the top of the sport, which is awesome for you. But it also speaks to how valuable the information that you're giving everybody is. And I think more and more people are starting to listen to you and take what you have to say very seriously. And I think this question is a very, very good one that a lot of people can benefit from. So let's segue into that. Why don't you go ahead with that question we got?
Yeah, and guys, we had an email set up with the old podcast name where you could send in questions. But for the time being, I guess until we create a new one, just if you have questions, just you could send them into my personal email if you want, just catandZeroRacing@gmail.com.
Or even the Instagram, the behind the pod, Behind the Gate podcast Instagram. You could DM us.
Even better. Just DM us on Behind the Gate podcast on Instagram. Send a direct message, and we'll try to get to your guys' questions answered. I definitely get questions all the time. A lot of silly ones for sure, but this is a pretty good question. So I get asked this a lot. So I'll read the email here really quick.
Which side is the shifter on?
Yeah. So hi AJ. Which side is the shifter on? Thanks. Just kidding. That is not the email. All right, here's the email. Hey AJ, I can't find the correct. Oh, just kidding. Don't have to read that part. He's up to episode 4 right now. Cool. Thanks for listening. Okay. So I have 2 main bikes, a YZ125 and a CRF 450R. Both are new enough and in good shape. I bought the 450 after being away from dirt bikes for 10 plus years. I used to ride a CR250 2-stroke. I got on the 450 and it felt like a spaceship, so I went and bought a YZ125. Are you nose whistling?
Am I? I don't think so.
I think you are. I'm getting some type of whistle.
I haven't breathed in days. Good.
I got on the 450 and it felt like a spaceship, so I went and bought a YZ125. Light, fun, makes me feel like a superhero. In road racing, parentheses, my background, learning to drive a slow car fast is a much better way to learn than start on a fast car. Does this translate to dirt bikes? Does riding the 125 translate to making faster on the 450? Thanks, Adam. So
short answer is no. You should go get a Gixxer 1000 with no bike experience and go as fast as you can.
This is a commonly asked question, especially from parents, with the question of, should I keep my kid on a little bike for longer? When my kid does go from an 85 to a big bike, should we skip a 125 altogether and just go to a 250F? I'm asked this all the time, but this is also a very valid question for an adult that, in Adam's case, he was just getting back on a bike after a hiatus. For anyone, unless you're a professional level rider or you're 350 pounds, I wouldn't suggest a 450 for anybody. It is too much bike. If it's too much bike for me, it is too much bike for you. I'm sorry. Unless you're, again, 300 pounds or a top professional rider, you do not need a 450. Especially if you're...
Now I'm gonna interrupt you and play devil's advocate, because I know there's a lot of guys, a lot of macho guys out there, me being one of them, who's like, oh, to hell with you, AJ, you're 150 pounds. I need the power of a 450. 450, dude. I need to spray roost. I need the power. More power equals better.
Yeah, but again, again, unless you're a wicked heavy dude and you're overweight, a 250 is more than enough power. Yes, I'm 155 pounds. If you're 195 pounds, if you're 200 pounds and you're complaining that you're using all the power on a 250, I'm sorry, you are not. I promise you are not. If you think you are, you're just not riding correctly. Or you have a really, really slow 250. I mean, yeah, if you have a 250 from 2006, a 250F from 2006, yeah, maybe it's not going to be fast enough. If you have a new 250F, you're not using all the power.
What if you take your 450 on a highway illegally and you want to do a wheelie at 60 miles an hour? 250 can't do that. All right, so I'll be serious. Go ahead. I won't interrupt.
In this guy's case, I mean, in Adam's case, I think it's smart of you to even consider this. I think a 125, depending on how much you weigh, a 125 is really slow. But at the same time, it's going to force you to ride correctly. It's going to force you to carry momentum in the turns. You'll be able to work on your technique and fix issues with your technique without worrying about the bike killing you. Where a 450, one false twist of the throttle and you're going to be flying over a berm or overshooting a jump by 40 feet. It's so easy for things to go wrong. And I know there's people listening to this right now that think they can handle a 450, that in all reality probably shouldn't be on. I'm sorry, guys, but listen. And I know I ride Supercross where it's a lot more technical, so it's harder to ride a 450. A 450 is still a heck of a lot of bike. I think it's smart to just get on something a little bit slower that you feel more comfortable on, that you can develop your skills on. So a kid going from an 85 to a big bike or from a super mini to a big bike, I would always, even in the modern age where all professional riding is done on 4 strokes, I would suggest to take the time to go to a 125, spend a little bit of time on it, work on uh, building your technique, and learning how to properly carry momentum in a turn and work on gear selection. Riding a 450 is only going to make you lazy in these aspects. So being a rider that's trying to learn and develop your skills, which everyone should be, even a professional rider for that matter. But if you're trying to develop these skills and work on your shifting points, your braking points, all of these things, the 450 is just going to turn you into a lazy rider. It's going to teach you the wrong things. A 450, you can basically put it in third gear and just ride the track. You can brake at the wrong points. You can pull the clutch in, basically come to a dead stop in the turn and just dump the clutch and kind of ride out and sort of kind of get away with it. Where in a YZ125, you simply wouldn't be able to get away with that. You would, if you come to a dead stop on a YZ125, it's going to take some time to get that thing back up to speed. So, long answer in a short version. Yes, I think it's a good idea. Ride the 125. Maybe think about getting rid of that 450. Again, I don't know how much you weigh. I don't know your skill level necessarily. You did say you're off a bike for 10 plus years, so I assume you're just trying to get back.
Got some cobwebs to dust off. Yep.
Yeah. And he said, I used to ride a CR252 stroke. So you have experience on a bike that's fast. I mean, a CR252 stroke, that's a lot of bike as well. Yeah, ride the 125. I mean, I have a blast on a 125 because I make almost like a game out of it. If you lose any bit of momentum, you're screwed. You got to keep your momentum up. You have to be smart about your line choice. You have to be in the right gear or else the bike will fall on its face. All of the things that motocross is all about, and it's going to develop skills that you'll need. As a professional rider, and I say you can get away with these things on a 450 as a C rider, as maybe a slower B rider, but being a professional, you can't get away with those things on a 450 and think you're going to be fast. You need to know which gear you're supposed to be in, when to use the clutch, when not to use the clutch, where your braking points should be, where your line selection and turns should be, all of these things. Where riding the 125 will just help you develop that. So hopefully that helps, Adam. And for you other guys out there listening, I will give you the same advice. But if you have questions, again, send them into Behind the Gate Podcast. I think that's the Instagram, right? Nothing, no underscores, nothing.
Yep. Nope.
Behind the Gate Podcast on Instagram. DM us questions if you have them, and we will try to segue them into our podcast at some point. I'm always happy to answer people's questions. And if you have one yet you don't necessarily want to be discussed in the podcast, just put a little note in, and I'll try to just DM you back with the answer. But
yeah. Yep.
What else you got, Bryce?
And, as your classes are now coming up, and you have a bunch scheduled, especially here on the East Coast and Northeast, go check those out. I think there's some invaluable information that AJ can teach you. I've said it before. He does an excellent job of dissecting the sport, and he could take a look at you pretty much in no time at all, diagnose several things that you could work on. And follow his Instagram page because he gives tips on his Instagram page. The one that we keep joking about the shift levers. We'll just cover that really quickly because I think it's another one that comes up pretty often. Something that I struggled with, and it's a common problem for everybody who's riding on their heels or even in the flat part of their foot on the arch and the foot pegs, and we're trying to get onto the balls of our feet, where that's going to help you absorb some of the bumps and the whoops and everything. You want to flex at your ankle, and AJ does a much better job explaining all of this. But how do we get or break the habit of having our foot just resting on the brake or the shift lever? How do we get from the balls of our feet to those respective levers?
So this was a question I was always asked, and I never discussed it because I've ridden on the balls of my feet my whole life. I thought this was an obvious answer, but the more I thought about it, the more I watched other riders, I realized this wasn't obvious. The reason after seeing this happen for years and years as being a teacher, I've realized now that the reason people ride on their heels or on their arches is because it gives them easier access to those levers, to the brake and to the shift lever. And what they do is they basically just ride on their heels with their toes pointed out, and then they can just rotate their toes inward to hit the levers and rotate their toes out. So you're just kind of pivoting on your heel. This is lazy riding. This is not the way that you should ride. You should never ride on your heels. What this will do too is a lot of people will just rest their foot on their brake lever and not even rotate it out. They'll just basically let their toe rest on their brake lever all throughout the turn, even down the straightaway sometimes. Obviously, that's not what you should be doing. Riding in the balls of your feet. Those of you that are not comfortable with this, it's just going to take some practice. All it is, it's a little tiny shift forward and a little slide of your foot forward to the brake lever or to the shift lever, and a little slide back when you're done using it. So it's a little shift forward, a little shift back. It's not, and a lot of guys, when they're first getting comfortable with this, they are taking their foot completely off the foot peg and basically ninja kicking the shift lever or ninja kicking the brake lever. It is not a full leg movement. It is just simply a slide forward with your foot and with your toe, and then a slide right back. Of course, it's going to feel a little weird if you're not comfortable with it. Just like breaking any bad habit, it's going to feel a little bit weird. But this is the correct way to do it. The more that you practice it, the less strange it's going to feel.
And I think once you start explaining these things, people start hearing it, and I think everybody who's taken your classes would be able to say the exact same thing, is once you point it out and you start recognizing it and you start looking for it elsewhere, it just becomes so demonstrable, because you watch it on TV, you see the guys, it's speaking to this point exactly, you could tell when they're in the air and they're dropping that front end, you could see the subtle movement from the ball of their foot. They make it's a very exaggerated movement. You could see it. You could visualize it. They're getting to that rear brake. You're tapping it. You're bringing their foot back. It's not they're on their heels. They're sliding their foot over or rotating it over and tapping the brake. I mean, they're going from the balls of their feet to the brake lever and back.
And that's the key thing. And back. Because a lot of people make that slide forward and not really return the thing back. I see people all the time landing on their shift lever, landing on their brake lever, or even just coming to a turn, just keeping their foot rested in that position. Riding a dirt bike is difficult for many reasons, but this is one of them. I mean, go that little extra bit and do it right. And what I tell everyone at my class is just, if you're trying to figure this out and break bad habits, don't be afraid to go slow for a day, for a week, for a month, shoot, for a year, until you break these bad habits. Because what's going to happen is, yeah, sure, you can go fast without this technical foundation. You could go sort of fast, but you'll plateau, and you'll never be able to get past that plateau and build safely without the foundation that I teach. If you can build this foundation first, you'll be able to incrementally get better and better and better and better for as long as you continue to ride. And the beauty of it is you'll be able, yes, sure, you're going to get hurt. It's motocross. Shit happens. But you're not going to be reckless when you're out there, and you're going to be able to build and do it in a safe way. I'm 25 years old. The past 3 or 4 years, I really haven't gotten that much seat time. I think that the average weekend warrior that goes out and races NESC or a local race on a weekend gets more seat time than I do in a season. But I still work on my technique, and I'm able to build that speed a little bit more. And I don't think I've reached my peak yet of how fast I can go on a dirt bike. And I'm 25 years old. I've been racing since I've been 2. So that should be an example for you.
For sure.
All right. Well, we're 97 minutes in. Bear's got to pee. I got to pee. I got to go to the gym.
I'm hungry.
I'm hungry.
Well, do a little dance and make it not rain on Friday so that we can do this century. I really want to ride that thing.
I kind of just want to say screw it and let's just go no matter what. How gnarly would that be if we just did the 100 miles in pouring rain and we just did it anyway?
Here, honestly, physically, I wouldn't have a problem with it. My biggest problem is all of the electronic devices on our bikes, between power meters and GPS units, and I mean, I don't know. It's supposedly water resistant. How hard could it rain? I have no idea. It's 5 hours.
I got stuck.
It's a minimum of 5 hours.
I was riding in a flood, but I was only out there for like 30 minutes.
Yeah. So we're talking a minimum of 5 hours in the rain. I guess it just depends on how hard it rains. Damn.
I don't think it's going to ride that hard. I think I'm going to drive up there tomorrow night. I think I should just bring my bike and we should just do it.
Okay. Make sure you bring warm clothes and a rain jacket.
That's going to be the worst part, is if it's raining and it's slightly cold. But dude, I think we should just do it.
Okay.
I think it'll be rewarding to finish a ride. Yeah, like if it just pours the whole time and it just sucks.
Yeah.
It'll be cool.
It sure would.
It'll be fun.
Brace the suck. Yeah. Great. Cool. Yeah. And then Saturday, of course, is going to be beautiful. So you're going to get a good turnout at the track. The track's going to be absolutely mint. I feel like that track is going to be absolutely perfect on Saturday.
Has it been dry? I have the opportunity this week, at least?
It's dry today. It'll be dry tomorrow.
Okay.
And
good. So the track should be awesome. Speaking of which, guys, there are spots left to for people that do want to sign up. This is basically the only the only track left in Connecticut. It's in Broadbrook, Connecticut, at the Stalinas' house. It is freaking amazing. I'm capping the class really low. I think I'm only allowing like 16 people into this one. But I'm allowing 3 or 4 more. So if you guys want to sign up, go to ajcatanzero.com. Sign up. It's Rider Appreciation Day, so I think it's only $150. Super cheap, ton of riding time. We'll be able to ride from basically 9:30 until 6 o'clock. So it'll be a fun day.
Beautiful. All right, pal. Well, here's to a good 2019 Supercross season. Our plan is to do a full season recap with Dave Drakes at some point over the next, say, week. So we'll bring you that, and then we're going to get back on the schedule, hopefully, with some interesting guests and kind of switch a little bit from just focusing on Supercross to back to our roots of covering all topics. Ooh. So keep a lookout for that. And go check out FXR. Go check out Max's Tires. Go check out everybody who supported AJ this season, because not only are they great companies, but I would not push any products that I didn't believe in. Then that is an absolute fact. So FXR is awesome gear. Max's Tires are the best out there. Go check them out.
Yes, sir. Well,
all right,
that was
buddy.
a fun 100 minutes. Thank you guys for listening.
Well, it won't be 100 minutes because we did take a pee break that we'll edit out. So
yes, we did.
Yeah. So, and then we talked about a bunch of unrelated things. So it'll be maybe 90 minutes, 95 minutes. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, everybody.
All right. Toodles.
Adios.